I'm Pauline. I now live in Nova Scotia. This is a new adventure. We've just moved there quite recently. We have family out there. Our daughter and her family are all out there. We have left behind our dear family in Winnipeg, Manitoba. Our daughter, another daughter and her family are there, and our son is in Ottawa with his family. So we are a little bit spread out. However, recently we have been visiting friends in the United States, and this story is based there. I became part of a painting group from a lady in our church started a little painting group in Winnipeg. She was teaching us to paint. She was trying to teach us to paint. And this is a story about the painting. I'm telling this story. I just need to back up a little. I want to tell this story because this is about a spiritual experience I had. And the Lord this is in a new season in this, that the Lord has been taking me on adventures in the Spirit, which have been very meaningful, but quite a new thing for me. And I know that some people are nervous about some of these things, and I wanted to just share my testimony about the Lord's been using new encounters with Him for His glory. So this story begins with this painting, and we did paintings of mountains, this class, and I brought my picture home. It wasn't quite finished, and I showed it to Keith, and he said, my husband, if I haven't already mentioned him, and he said, well, it's very nice, Pauline, but there's no mountains like that. So he's a geography teacher. So he said, no, I'm sorry, but there's no mountains look like that, but it's very nice. And I said, well, okay. And I continued my painting, and I decided to put a lake in front and finish off this painting. And I'd done the colours all blues and greens and like dark navy colours. A couple of days later, not very long afterwards, Keith's on his computer and has his computer screen. And he said, Pauline, you're not going to believe this. Come and look. And there on the screen were my mountains. They were pointed, because my mountains are very pointy. They were very pointy. They were blue in colour. The name means blue towers, blue towers. So my blue pointy mountains, there they were, and they're actually this very remote mountain range in South America, in Patagonia. There they are, these mountains. So my teacher said, now the Lord's taking you to places through your painting, not just like in a vision or something. You're going there through your painting. This is really exciting. So I thought, well, Lord, why have you taken me to this place through this painting? Why have you taken me to this place? I must have to pray. So it's very remote. I don't think there's many places there even, but there is a park there where it's these like extreme hikers go. It's where they go to hike. So I thought, well, I'll pray for the people going there. I'll pray for the people who live there. A little while after that, we go down into the US because we have friends there to visit their church. Keith, my husband, speaking. In the break there, I felt the Lord prompt me and say, go and ask this lady, because I felt the Lord say, does she paint? And so I went to talk to her and I said, do you paint? I knew she was quite artistic. And we got talking and she said, yes, she did. And but she was, like a lot of people are, they don't think they're doing a very good job. So she hadn't been doing it. Whereas actually she had a real gift. And so I felt, oh, well, that's to encourage her to paint, for her to paint. Well, she asked me, why did you ask me that? So I got to talking as a result. We got talking about this story, about my painting and these mountains, and how detailed my picture was to the one we saw in reality, the photo. And she paused and she looked at me and she said, I think my son has been there and hiked in those mountains. These are extremely remote mountains. And she said, I think my son's been. And so she said, I'm going to find out. So the next morning at church, she comes, and there she has it from Instagram or whatever. I'm not very techie. There she has the picture on my mountains. Her son had sent her when he was hiking there. So we're all quite blown away by this. And I asked about her son, and it turns out that her son was a prodigal. He'd wandered away from the Lord, but when he was a teenager, he'd been very, very fervent for Jesus. At his school, they had preschool meetings, prayer meetings for their school, very ardent for the Lord, but something had happened, and he'd gone away from the Lord. So I now had an even more focused prayer goal to pray for this young man. So since then, I have been praying for him. Most days I pray for this young man as part of the people that I pray for every day. And while we've been on this visit here to Winnipeg this time, we went down to visit this same friends in the US. And I asked about her son. And the news is that her son has come back to the Lord. And he came to her and said something like, "Mom, it's all Jesus. It's just Jesus." I can't understand why the Lord got me to pray for him. It's like, because the Lord's ways are so incredible, so beyond our figuring out how this all works together. But and I know his mother, and I'm sure many people have been praying for him. So why was I? And I thought about the bowls of incense, and maybe it was the Lord needed one more intercessor to just tip the bowls. And he thought, well, I can ask Pauline, and maybe she'll pray. I don't know. Maybe one day I will. But maybe just to help to tip the bowl. But this amazing spiritual encounter that some people may think strange was used for such glory for the Lord, that this young man's life is now wonderfully restored, and Jesus gets all the glory. So I hope that brings peace to some people who are wondering about these spiritual encounters. I don't know what to make of it, or that actually the Lord his ways are far beyond our ways. So that's my story.